Okay, so this is the Practice for Profits or a guided role play boot camp that we're going to go through. And this isn't really buyer specific or seller specific, it's practice specific. So just a couple of ground rules I thought I'd go through before I kind of get started here that will hopefully set the tone and make sure that there's good participation and that you get the most out of this. First is, if you've got any questions during the role playing stuff, this one's set up meeting style, so I've got everybody muted right now. If you have any questions, throw them up in the chat box and I will do my best to get through them before the end of the call. And if I don't, then I'll have them on the list for the next one. We'll cover those. The questions and stuff that you guys have are very important in a call like this because there's going to be things that kind of pop up in your head. Write those down, throw them in the chat box. If it gets answered later, that's perfectly fine. If not, I want to make sure everybody leaves this with the information that they need to be the most productive. The second one is, I heard somebody say this in one of the podcasts that Greg and I did probably a month or so ago, and they were quoting somebody else. I don't even know who's brought this up originally, but they said, knowledge is not power. And in this case, in this boot camp, in this subject, knowledge is not power. If you just listen to all this stuff and get through the calls and you take some notes and stuff like that, it's unlikely you're going to move the ball forward at all in terms of your efficiency, your effectiveness, and just your overall productivity and your profitability, which is what we're after. This is going to require you to take the knowledge and then go get into action. So knowledge is not going to be power. Listening to this isn't going to do you any good. You're going to have to take what you listen to and what you hear and then go change what you do because of that. That's going to be the most important part. So don't just, kind of walk through it and then, figure you're going to get something out of it. It's not going to be that way. You really have to go and change your behavior. And then the third is this. We had Labor Day last week on Monday, so we didn't get that first call in. This is going to be 3 calls for sure, the next 3 Mondays. But depending on the feedback and if people are interested, I'm more than happy to schedule this ongoing. It's something that Greg and I talked about, the possibility of having something kind of like a guided role play where we could get on at the same time each week. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. I'll ask as we get finished up with that 3rd session, if there is interest in doing that, let me know. And we would just pick a time during the week. We'd have a set time, and it's really just going to be that guided role play where I can help with some of the conversations. I can role play some of the ones, and just a time that at minimum, once a week, you're going to have people that you can have as good role play partners. Okay, so those are just kind of a couple ground rules. Let's talk about the actual subject of role playing and why it's imperative if you're going to become more profitable. And understand the goal of this is to help you become more profitable. I purposely didn't put in there that the goal has anything to do with production, because frankly, not everybody, believe it or not everybody is trying to continually, boost their production. But I believe everybody is trying to become more profitable. So if you're at a point where the production that you're doing is comfortable, you're okay with it, you're not trying to increase the next year by 20, 30%, 20 deals, 100 deals, whatever it is, then that's okay. But I would challenge you to figure out, do you still want to find a way to be more profitable? Because becoming a master at this and becoming a master of the conversation and communicating effectively in real estate is it's the only thing that's going to allow you to become more profitable every year as time goes by, because you will either do more production, do more deals, or you can do the same production in a lot less time. So if you think about those 2 options, then just decide where you're at, because it applies to every single person out there. Either you're in the mode of trying to generate more deals, or if you're okay with the production that you're doing, let's figure out how you can do the same production in a lot less time. Be more efficient, be more effective. So that's really the goal. do more deals or have more time left doing the deals that you have. That's profitability. That's when it becomes a lot of fun. So I want you to think of something right now and write down where you're at, something right now that you are really, really good at. So a subject maybe that you're really, really comfortable with, or one that you could, talk to other people about for hours. Something that you would be seen as the authority in. So when you talk about it, people actually listen. And ask yourself, when you've got that subject in mind, that topic, whatever it is, are your real estate conversations at the same level as that topic? Could you be more effective if they were? Could you be more persuasive if they were? Could you serve your clients at a higher level? And then most importantly, imagine if your real estate conversations were at the same level of that topic that you wrote down or that you thought of, would you be having more fun? My guess is if all the other ones are no's, then the fact that you would be having more fun is probably guaranteed, because you're going to be enjoying the conversations. They're going to see you as an authority. You're not going to feel like, man, am I kind of bouncing around and just trying to wing it here? Am I trying to fake it till I make it? All those things that go through our heads, that's only going to result from one thing, and it's practice. Okay. People that will take this on, I will tell you, in my experience, people that will take this on, which is the practice portion of our business, will create an unfair advantage versus your competition. It's an unfair advantage. Now, does everybody have access to it? Yes, every single person has the opportunity to do the same thing that I'm asking you to do, but most will not do it. And that becomes an unfair advantage. And one thing that we have to understand is in this business, our income, the money that we make, the deals that we do, the people that we help, it's a direct result of the conversations we have. You can take every single check that you've ever cashed, every check that you're going to cash, and work it all the way back to a conversation that you had. And I get challenges on this, and people say, well, no, I just had somebody call up out of the blue, and it was a referral from a good friend of mine. And, then we did a deal. I didn't call that person. No, but you had conversations with the person that referred them. Somewhere along the line, you built trust. They believe that you can do the job, and they referred you. Every single deal you're ever going to do is going to come back to a conversation. There's just nothing there. There's no other things that come up. That's the beginning. So it doesn't matter how any of the things in any other profession, they don't matter. It doesn't matter how fast you can run, how high you can jump, the grades you got in high school, college, none of it, or any of the other talents that you possess. We're all equal in this business, and we are rewarded by how effectively we can communicate with other people, how effectively we can convey our thoughts with the consumers that we work with. Now, if you're newer, meaning if you're under 3 or 4 years in the business right now, that should be very comforting to you. That should be like, whew, man, we're all equal in the business, and we're rewarded by how we communicate with others, because that levels the playing field. Now you know what you need to do. I just need to go out and become an expert communicator. You don't have to have hundreds of sales under your belt to compete with the best, but you do at some point need to have thousands of conversations. And the quicker that you can get through those conversations that we all have to learn at some point, the quicker you can get through them, the shorter the learning curve, and then the quicker you get to actually reap the rewards of the business. So let me give you an example. I'm going to give you a kind of a tale of 3 different types of agents. All right. Agent number 1, just think of the conversation opportunities that each one of these examples has. Just be thinking about that as I describe them. Agent number 1, typical agent not inside one of our companies. Okay. No lead systems. So they're not getting any incoming leads that are going to them. They're not doing any self-generation. So they're not out prospecting or making outbound calls at any level. They typically do deals when somebody shows up. Usually it's somebody that they know, COIs, something like that. And they'll occasionally, maybe they'll get a listing from a COI, and that will create somebody that calls them as a buyer lead. But it's all very, very passive. The things that come into them are very, very passive. There's not a lot of outgoing things that they can control. They can't control any of the flow of the contacts that they had. That's agent number one. Okay. Agent number two, I would describe as probably most agents within our offices receive incoming leads or have the opportunity to receive incoming leads, probably make some outbound calls, if nothing else, to those leads, because that's a requirement. May do some actual outbound calls to their centers of influence. If they're listing focused, they probably are making some outbound calls to build a database of property owners. But they're getting some things coming into them that they have to contact, so they understand the importance of that. And they also are making some outbound stuff because they are outbound contacts because they know the importance of that. And they understand that it starts with conversations. Okay, so that's agent number two. Agent number two, by the way, is probably overall in the industry, maybe 25 or 30% that actually understand that every deal comes from a check. Small percentage of the overall market, but still much more productive than agent one. Now let's look at agent number three. Agent number three does everything that agent number two does. So they've got incoming leads that they know the importance of actually going out and having conversations. They're making outbound calls because they know the importance of that. They have a database, they know the importance of that, but also they have focused and continue to focus a significant amount of time on practicing their conversations, their scripts, their dialogues, 30 minutes a day. Imagine this, 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week, over the course of 6 months equals 60 hours of practice. 30 minutes a day becomes 60 hours of practice over a 6-month period. Now, I want you to just try to understand the gap in the amount of conversations that agent three has had compared to agent one. They're not even in the same universe. It's not even close. You'd look at them, if you looked at experience level over 6 months, just basing experience on the amount of conversation, you look at agent three and say, they're not even in the same industry. Like, what is agent number one doing? Then if you compared them to agent number two, you'd go, okay, I can see where they're in the same industry and they're doing a lot of the same things, but man, agent three is taking this serious. Like, I can see them creating whatever they want. And agent two, wow, I wonder why they don't do that. Like, if you looked at our industry from the outside and saw agent two and agent three, you go, I wonder why they don't ever practice. Okay. So that additional investment of time, not only does it give you more opportunities, but when you get the opportunity, you're in a better shape, or you're in a better position to be able to convert. Okay. Done correctly, those practice opportunities help you become an expert communicator. So over the course of that 6 months, 2 completely different leagues where agent three is compared to agent two. Okay. So it's probably important now to understand why then, if we were looking at this from the outside and looking at those 2 scenarios, we would probably look and go, why is that agent number two not spending time getting better at their conversations? And it's important that you understand that. So in my opinion, as agents, we typically don't spend a lot of time practicing because we are not clear on the fact that in order to become really, really productive, profitable agents, we have to become great salespeople. As agents, real estate agents are, should be, always will be great salespeople. Okay. Very few of us, if any, are born as great salespeople. Now, are there people that are naturally, like, they feel more comfortable in conversations? Sure. Are there people that maybe have spent time in other industries and they understand maybe the sales cycle or the process or personalities a little bit better? Sure. But even those people that may be predisposed to being a little more comfortable communicating with people, you know what they do have to learn? They have to learn the language of real estate. Because if you were an unbelievable car salesman, that doesn't mean you're going to be an unbelievable real estate salesperson. If you sold tech software and were the top of your game, you'd understand personality. Maybe you'd understand numbers and things like that, but you still have to learn the language of real estate. And where do you learn the language of real estate? You learn the language of real estate by practicing and figuring out the ins and outs of the communication. So all of the other skills that we have, rapport building, building relationships, all those are great. But if you want to operate at the highest level in real estate sales, you have to admit that I need to become a great salesperson. You have to know what to say. You have to know when to say it. And most importantly, how to say it in order to be effective. And that takes scheduled time for you to put in your actual day and become better at what you're doing. So one of the things that in the industry, I think that we give this false sense of hope to people is letting people believe that you can be compensated as a professional in this business without actually becoming a professional. Like you think about sports, and for the most part, like I would imagine most professional athletes are practicing anywhere from 40 plus hours, I would imagine 40 plus hours a week for their craft. And during the season, most of them are probably, a lot of games, 60 minutes, maybe 90 minutes. Professional soccer is 90 minutes. Swimming, matter of a couple of minutes. Look at the ratio of time that they spend practicing to the time that they actually spend playing. And it's so upside down, it's not even funny. The vast majority of their time is spent practicing, and very little time is actually spent in the game. So you can imagine 30x the amount of time that they're actually in the game, they're spending practicing. That's a professional. When do most real estate agents practice? Most real estate agents practice comes during game time. So be clear on that. If right now you could honestly, when you look at your schedule over the last 6 months and you go, you know what? I'm not role playing. Well, if you're not role playing and you're not working on your skills in the conversation and you're not moving the ball forward in your ability to communicate, you're practicing when it's game time. And the challenge with that is results, like that's the time that it matters. So we choose to practice when it's game time, when there's actually a high consequence of not saying the right thing, not being as effective as we can, versus doing all those things during practice when there's really no consequence. There's only upside. But there's huge downside of practicing when it's game time. We can win it or we can lose it. So my goal for the boot camp is to help you understand how to add some effective role play. And I'm going to go through the rules here next. So there's a big difference in just saying, okay, I'm going to role play. This is not go role play. This is actually how do you effectively role play to improve your skills. Add that into your daily routine and make sure that you're making some improvements with those practice sessions so that when you show up and it's game time, you're on a listing appointment, you're in a showing, getting ready to figure out how are we going to get these folks to move forward with a buyer, with a purchase, then you have got the skills. Okay. So 10 rules. There's 10 rules I'm going to go through for effective role play. If you have been role playing and you're going to continue on with the same people and they're not on this call, whether they're in this market or something else, I would encourage you to take these 10 rules, let them know that we're changing things up. We have to abide by these because what we've been doing before was just, it's better than nothing, but it's not the best thing that you can do. So 10 rules. First off is you got to choose a role play partner that's going to give honest feedback and accepts the same. Okay. Feedback like, well, that was really good. You sounded really good. That's worthless. If you're getting feedback or giving feedback in a role play, that was a really good job. You sounded really good. It's worthless role play. And here's why. One of two things is happening at that point. Either your partner, if you're the one being the agent, either your partner isn't giving you honest feedback and it really wasn't that good. Then you're going to go out there and do that in the real world and it's not going to be effective. You're going to go, I wonder why that didn't work. They're telling me that it sounds really good. So either that happens or you are actually really good at it and the partner's just telling you, man, that was really good. And you're not challenging yourself to get better at the things that you're having problems with or challenges with. We all have those types of conversations, those little things within them, within our presentations, within our objection handlers that we need to work on. If you show up and you actually deliver a super solid role play example, and they're like, man, that was incredible. Shame on you. Go for something that you have challenges with. Okay. That's how you're going to improve. Role play shouldn't be something where it's like, let me just do the things I'm really good at and impress the person next door that I'm talking with. You actually want to get better. Number two, you as that person that's doing the role play, be clear on what part of the conversation, the objection, etc., that you want to improve on. You should have a running list of topics, conversations, closes, etc., that you're not comfortable with, and work on those until you fix them. Okay, it's not a race. Take part of it, work on it until you fix it. Start with the most important so you can imagine you've got a list of these things. All right. I really need to know how to deal with, I'm froze when I call an irate expired. I just freeze and I hang up. When a FSBO does this, I don't know what to say. When I'm negotiating and they say, tell them full price, I don't know what to say. Okay, within those three, the most important would be when I'm negotiating and they tell me I don't want to lower the price. That is going to be the closest to your game time where you actually are going to get paid. So that I would have as the number one priority. I'm going to fix that. I want to learn how to fix that. And then I'm going to commit all of that to memory to my conversations. And until I get really good at that part, I'm not moving on. So you've got your list, rank them as the most important, and then cross it off the list when you get really good at it, and then move on to the next one. Why just get a little bit better at a bunch of different things that may randomly come up? Get really good at one, check it off the list. You're never going to get worse at it. If you pick the right ones and they're happening often, once you get really good at it, you don't go back unless you quit the business for a few years, and then it'll come back to you. So knock one out, get really good, and then move on to the next one. Number three, understand the difference between scripts and dialogues. In my opinion, role play sessions with someone else are not the best place to learn your scripts. You should be able to learn scripts in other ways, and most of it you can do on your own. The dialogues are where the money is. The dialogues are where you'll likely need to spend your time working on improvement with somebody else. So let's look a little bit deeper at the difference. Scripts they're the intro of why you're calling. It's the first part of, why are we even talking? It's kind of the basic beginning of the conversation. Now, why do I say that that's not great for role play? Because the process for learning scripts is internalizing or memorizing them, internalizing them, and then personalizing them. All of those with a script. Hey, good morning, it's Brendon Payne, Sector 21. I just sold another home over on Chestnut Street. Typically when one sells, a couple more will right away. I was curious, when do you plan on selling your home? All that stuff you can do. You can memorize it, internalize it, make it your own, personalize it on your own. That's not something that within a role play you need that other person for. Okay. Where do you need the other person? In the dialogue, in all the stuff after that because that person doesn't have the script in front of them, that they answer different. They say, well, why are you calling me? Oh my gosh, that's not on the script. Now what do I do? That's dialogues. Dialogues are the conversations that result after the script, or the part that's not scripted. This is where your understanding of the conversation shows up. Remember the topic that I asked you to write down that you're super comfortable with, that you've got a ton of knowledge, that you're an expert in. Your understanding is super, super high level there, okay? That's where you need to get your real estate conversations to. Number 4, spend time working on the part of the conversation that you really want feedback on and that you want to improve. There's really no reason to role play an entire just sold call if you know that the biggest challenge you're having is figuring out, like, how do I transition to, I think that they want to sell in order to set an appointment. Be precise. That might mean that you go through a 20-second exchange or a 30-second exchange 10 times before you actually nail it. That's better than going through like a whole just sold call when really it's like, I have a problem when I know people want to sell. Like, I'm just having a tough time getting the appointment set. Okay, don't worry about all the stuff up front. Set it up. Here's what the scenario is. And then work on that 20 or 30-second exchange, that close. That part where you just lock them in where they're like, they have to say yes, okay? So be strategic. Cover this ahead of time with your role play partner so that they know what the scenario is and you work on perfecting that part. It could be one sentence that you want to dial in, okay? Number 5, don't simply just go into a role play without a setup. This goes back to being strategic. That partner that's acting as the agent. So if I'm the agent, I'm role playing with somebody, then I want to make sure that I set the stage for what I want that other person to be listening for. So I might ask a question, I want to know, how does this come across? How do you hear this? If you're the person on the other end, the seller on the other end, the buyer on the other end, how does that come across? I want you to listen and make sure you're clear on what I'm delivering as value to my clients. So if you're, got a close or here's my value proposition to my sellers, I'm going to go through that. And I want my role play partner to listen for, am I clear on what I'm actually delivering as value, or am I all over the place? Because I got news for you. If you don't have that part of the conversation down, if somebody says, why are you different? And you can't bring that up the same time every single time and know why you're different based on what they're looking for, then it's probably not clear to them. So that would be one thing you'd want to work on. Be specific. This is going to help your partner understand what they need to listen for. Okay. Number 6, if you're the partner that's acting as the consumer, be realistic. Be realistic in the role play. Take mental notes of what was good, what worked, what didn't. And the person role playing as a consumer needs to be mimicking what that actual consumer would do. If you're trying to improve, how do I get past that guy that's expired listing? They're like, why are you calling me? I get 1,500 calls a month. Then work on that. It doesn't do any good for the person that's role playing to become irate on a just sold call if that's not what you're trying to do. It's easy eventually to get somebody to stump the person that's the role play person or the agent on the role play. But why? Most of the time when that happens, it's not anything a normal consumer would do. Act like a normal consumer. So when earlier that I said, make sure if you're role playing people that aren't on this call, you need to have this in front of them, because that's one of those rules that people need to play by. Make sure that's effective, that you're acting like a normal consumer, not just throwing stuff out there because it's like, all right, let's see if I can get them to go, I don't know what to say. That's not the goal. You set the expectation of what you want that person to bring to the call. Number 7, leave your ego at home during the role play. Okay, leave your ego at home during the role play. If you're not there to actually get better, then you're not ready to get better. I'll say that again. If you're not in the role play to get better, then it's not time for you. You haven't submitted to the fact that, you know what, you probably need some work on things. You're doing role play because somebody told you should do role play. And people that are doing role play to get better are doing it because they're like, here's an opportunity for me to go in and actually practice with somebody who's going to be the next best thing to a live consumer with nothing on the line. If that's where you're at for role play, then you're ready to get better, and you will. Okay. So the feedback partner is giving you what they're hearing. It doesn't matter what you meant. It doesn't matter that, I really wasn't saying that when you get feedback. You don't get to do that with the consumer. You have a conversation with the consumer judges the conversation. They either like it, they didn't, they understand it, they don't, but you don't get a chance to go back most of the time and say, well, that's not really what I meant. So be prepared to get that feedback, be okay with it, and then work on it. The feedback partner is telling you exactly how they heard it, how they interpreted it. And while you don't get a second chance with the consumer, you do with your role play, with your feedback partner. Number 8, set a specific amount of time for the role play and use it very efficiently. So for example, let's just say that, you and your role play partner decide that you're going to set aside 30 minutes a day, and you're both going to get a chance to do the role play and both going to get a chance to be the feedback partner. So that's 15 minutes each. I would schedule 10 to 12 minutes max of the actual role play. And maybe that's depending on how long the part is that you want to cover. That could be 4 or 5 times through. Imagine if you're doing it just sold, it's 1 time through probably. And then you're down this rabbit hole and you're like, well, what did we just practice? So 10 to 12 minutes of actual, whatever you're working on, then get feedback. And then if you have time, maybe you do it again with the feedback that the person gave you. Did that sound better? Was changing this more effective? Was I more clear on what I was trying to convey? So leave time. The point is leave time at the end to get the feedback from them. And then if you can, try it again so you can get that immediate feedback again of, yes, that was much better. I was much more clear. And if you don't have time for that, then make sure, notate, what did they say? What did they hear? And now that's your job between now and the next role play, if you continue to move forward with it. Okay. There's 3 really important parts to the actual role play. The first part is that you actually do it. So if you just take the time to schedule it and do it, you're going to be further ahead than most. But second most important thing is that you actually get the feedback from somebody. So feedback, or a role play without feedback, is just literally practicing your scripts and your dialogues. Add in the feedback, and now it's even better. Add in the feedback and go get in action to add something to it, change up what your conversation is, delete part of it, all of that. That's what rounds out and makes it really effective. So if you're doing it, you're getting feedback, and then you take action on the feedback, that's when it's going to be the best. Number 9, in terms of role play partners, change your role play partners often. 8 to 10 sessions maximum, in my opinion, is probably enough. It gives you enough time to work on, several different conversations. But much beyond that, you start to get to know the person. And especially if you're working on the same conversations, remember, that's one person. I wouldn't consider myself necessarily an expert on one thing because my role play partner said, man, you started and it really wasn't that good. Now it's really good. My next role play partner, my first call might be that one that I was working on to get their feedback. Man, that was really solid. Like that. Perfect. Now I know it was multiple people thought it was good. You're not going to get it right with every single person, but point is, make sure if you're changing people up, you're going to get people's, their different experiences are going to go into their feedback. Their overall experience in the business is going to go into it, and it's going to help you continue to get better. And frankly, after about 8 or 10 sessions with the same person, it probably gets kind of boring. So it's important to change that up. There's when I bring up role play, I get the question or the comment all the time, well, I don't have anybody to role play with. That nobody's going to buy that. I'm not going to buy that. There's all kinds of people that want to role play. So a couple places that you can go find them. Obviously our offices, hopefully more people after this boot camp will be like, okay, this is something I need to do. Real Estate Sales Solutions, that Facebook group that you guys should all be part of, is perfect for that. There's going to be people that, you just put out there, listen, I'm looking for a role play partner. Here's the times. Don't just put looking for a role play partner, because then it goes back and forth. And well, what time are you looking for? I can only do it on these days. I'm West Coast, I'm East Coast. And all that back and forth is just creative avoidance on both sides to go, you know what, let's just move on. I tried, I asked, nobody could do it. So I'm available from Wednesdays 2 to 2:30, Friday 10 to 11:45. Want to role play 30-minute sessions? I'm ready to go. And then you're probably going to get more people that are like, all right, I can do that. There's not a bunch of decisions to make. Okay. I'll reiterate, I highly suggest that you share these 10 rules with those people so that you don't spend half of your first 2 role play sessions explaining all the stuff that they're doing opposite of what I'm sharing with you today. Number 10, keep a notebook with the ongoing challenges that you're having with different dialogues, conversations, etc., so that you're prepared when it comes to role play time. When we don't have a list of things that we want to work on, we're just going to default to some general conversation that just isn't going to move the ball. Maybe you get lucky and you get something out of that just sold conversation that you have. But for the most part, if you spend some time thinking about what do you want to get better at, they're going to be smaller, more precise challenges that you're having, and you're going to knock those out, and it's actually going to move the needle in your experience, in your conversations. So keep a list of them. Don't just have general conversations. Hit something and be very strategic with it. Okay. And lastly, on that one is just have fun. Enjoy the process. Enjoy the feedback that you're giving and the feedback that you're getting, and know that while everybody else is just kind of hanging out, you're getting better and they're kind of staying in the same in the same level.